They are completely artificial.
But didn't that give you like a little bit of a pause?
A little bit. Go or League of Legends or Fortnite. They're not completely deterministic.
Right.
But they're still very artificial, very bounded games. Being good at Go doesn't mean that you can then suddenly figure out how to write great poetry.
Right. The creativity, for sure, is something that's
creativity is the last frontier. So I do believe that automation over a long enough period of time will replace every non-creative job or every non-creative work. But that's great news. That means that all of our basic needs are taken care of, and what remains for us is to be creative, which is really what every human wants.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you doing right now? This is a creative job.
Sure.
Right?
That brings us back to the idea of meaning and universal basic income. I think the idea of giving someone $15,000 a year doesn't necessarily cause what everyone would worry about is people being on the dole. You would have a bunch of listless people out there with no meaning in life. But the idea is that $15,000 a year, and I'm not necessarily sure I agree with this. I'm not even endorsing this. But that $15,000 a year would just provide you with the necessities to get by in life. It would give you food. It would give you shelter.
Well, it's not going to stop at 15 because the moment people are like, 15, like
then people would demand more. Bernie Sanders would be on the I want
16, 17,
$45,000 a year. These companies are too big. Yeah, that could happen.
It doesn't stop. It just goes all the way to bankruptcy.
The concern is the slide to socialism.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, if I was not working and I was getting my 15 a year, I would happily vote for the guy who would give me 20 or 25. It's just common sense.
What do you say to the people that don't believe that there is such a thing of ethical or compassionate capitalism? There's many people today that are espousing Marxism, and they're espousing some sort of a socialist society where they believe that capitalism has screwed people over and eliminated the middle class. And
there are absolutely problems with capitalism. I think monopolies are a problem. I think that crony capitalism is a problem with the government, kind of gets in bed with them and sort of forces things. I think the bankers have really, raped society, and the rest of us are suffering for it. Yeah, they've essentially taken huge risks where they privatize the gains and they socialize the losses. So when it fails, they basically get bailed out and bankrupt everybody else. So capitalism has gotten a really bad name. Let's talk about it as free exchange, free markets. Free markets and free exchange are intrinsic to humans. From when the first person started a fire and somebody came along with a deer and said, hey, if I cook my deer on your fire, I'll share some of it with you, right? So specialization of labor, we trade, that's built into the human species. Basic math comes from accounting, keeping track of debts and credits and so on. We need to be able to engage in free trade. The correct criticism of capitalism is when it does not provide equal opportunity. And so we should always strive to provide equal opportunity. But people confuse that with equal outcome. When you have equal outcome, that can only be enforced through violence because free people make different choices. And when they make different choices, they have different outcomes. And if you don't let them suffer the consequences of bad choices or reap the rewards from good choices, then you are forcibly redistributing through violence. It's interesting that there are no working socialist examples that exist without violence. You basically need someone to show up with a gun and say, okay, you're not allowed to do that. You hand this over to that person. So one of the reasons why I do this podcast is because I believe everybody can be wealthy. Everybody. It's not a zero-sum game. It is a positive-sum game. You create something brand new. You exchange it with me for something brand new I've created. There's higher utility for both of us. The sum of the value created is positive. It's not like status where it's like you're higher up, I'm lower down. You're president,